Okay.
So Dawn McCarty. She is the brains behind this operation. She's the brains behind the conference and the pain in my butt who rings me in the morning when I wake up to go over these crazy ideas about let's have a conference, Liz. Yeah, first one in the world, adult child survivors of abuse. Oh, I'm like, oh, that sounds really fun, Dawn. So here we are. So
Oh
Dawn,
my gosh.
I am Dawn's leader of the fan club, let me tell you. So let me tell you about
Oh my
Dawn.
gosh.
Apart from sharing the same birthday and very, very
Mhm.
similar child traumas, Dawn is also an amazing award winning cybersecurity expert. And I've been talking to her when she's won these elite awards in the cybersecurity community for her work and her passion within this space. And she's also an online safety expert. And Dawn, all she thinks about is how do we keep the kids safe? How do we keep the kids safe? This is her whole world. She's the founder and organizer of this conference. She's the publisher and author of two international bestsellers. Like this woman, she barely sleeps, I can tell you. Not only is she working full time, she's also bringing up her family and in her spare time has been doing this. So she's a segment information security officer, and she refers to herself as a say soul. I hear this a lot. An MBA in cybersecurity. She's got an MS and a BS in criminal justice. She's got a BS in computer science. She's BOD, Kids Need Both, and SafeTeens Online. She's been awarded the Visionary Security Awareness Program Leader for 2023, and she won Cybersecurity Woman of the Year 2021. That's a big deal in her industry. She's been seen in Court TV, PI or L magazine. Sorry, I'm Aussie. I don't know it. Forbes, the Daily Mail, the Sun, Orlando Sentinel, and a lot more. She's a Rotary Global Impact Club member, as am I. And she's also an international keynote speaker of Success Secrets. And I'm very, very honored and proud. And I'm very emotional because I love Dawn a lot to introduce my beautiful friend, Dawn McCarty. Take it away, Dawn.
Good day, everybody. Yes, I am Dawn McCarty. And today I might be an award winning cybersecurity expert, a child advocate, a number one best-selling author, international speaker. Before I had those titles, this was me. I'm a survivor of a hostile parental abduction, child psychological abuse, severe family violence that led to several near life ending events, all leading to a disconnection from my reality. At the age of 4, I was living with my father, who was my sole caretaker for nearly 2 years. And suddenly, out of the blue, I was abducted by my mother, which ultimately severed the bond with my father. And we were kept apart for 44 years. This trauma shaped not only my childhood, but my entire life, creating a void that would take decades to heal. My story is not unique, though. Millions of children have experienced this form of abuse, this psychological abuse. And many people turn a deaf ear because I hear all the time, oh, but it was your parent that abducted you. It was your mother. So what's the big deal? What's heartbreaking is it doesn't matter who abducts you, it's still an abduction. The emotional damage is the same, maybe worse, since this is someone that you are trusting. The person that's in your life that you trust more than anybody else is the person that's also causing your childhood trauma. So before the abduction, my father here on the screen was not just my primary parent. I remember him as a fun-loving man who was had profound love for me. He was my protector, always making sure that I felt safe and loved. And I have this picture on the left specifically to show how much animals gravitated towards him. He was a gentle and kind soul and had a very gentle spirit. And while he worked hard to support us, He filled our days with joy and adventure, making memories that were unfairly stolen from me when I was taken. My father wasn't just a figure in my life, he was my home, and losing him left a wound that I carried for decades. His love was present in every part of my early life, even down to the smallest details, like my name. This wasn't just a name, it was a symbol of a bond that we shared, a bond that was stolen from me when I was taken away. He named me Dawn Andrea McCarty. It's a small detail, but it holds significance to me. So the day I was born, I'm going to tell you a little story about my name. My mother was on her way to the delivery room, and she firmly reminded my father as she was about to go through those doors to make sure that he spelled my name correctly. She wanted to name me Dawn Andrea McCarty, and she wanted him to use an E at the end of Andrea instead of an I. So when he filled out the birth certificate, he realized, well, those initials would be damn. So he decided he didn't like that. Remembering what my mother said, spell Andrea with an E, he sort of followed directions. He followed directions to the extent that the first A to an E was changed and it became Indria, Indria with an E. So he thought it looked better at the end where it has DRIA. He thought it looked better with an I suppose. So I'm pretty sure this is where my creative defiance comes from. Just saying. So, but this connection, this small act of care and thoughtfulness led to an enduring nickname that I would only hear from him. So this was our bond. This was just between him and me. This is the only person that ever called me this name, Demi. So Demi symbolized the deep connection that I had to my father, a bond that was loving and lovingly sealed in a name that he chose for me. 3 years after my abduction, the name that connected me to him was taken from me. When my mother's new husband adopted me under questionable circumstances, changing my name to something that had no connection to me, no connection to who I really was on the inside, who I remembered that I was. And this new life, this new name represented more of my mother's new world than it did me. It represented more of the life that her and her new husband had than it did me. So it wasn't just a legal identity that changed, it was the very essence of my connection to my father. My given name, the name that represented his love and our bond, was replaced by something that was totally, it disrupted my reality. The new name never set with me. So in that moment, I lost more than just a name. I lost a part of my identity and the bond of my father that it represented. It would fade away, except I would store these memories deep down inside. So they're still there. That's why you can still barely see them on the screen because I still hold them deep down inside. They're still present, but not as present as they should be. And this was a theft that ran far deeper than I could ever understand as a child, erasing the very thing that connected me to the love and protection that my father gave me. This is normalized identity theft that goes unnoticed every single day. For a child, abduction creates a disconnection from reality. It warps the understanding of safety, trust, and love. And it doesn't matter whether it's a stranger or a parent, the impact on the child is devastating. I lived the remaining of my childhood with that name, with that new name, up until I got married. And then I only changed my last name. I never understood the weight of the loss of the symbolism of having my father's name erased from my life. It wasn't until decades later that I realized how deeply this affected me. So I changed my name back to Dawn Andrea McCarty after finding my father in 2016. It wasn't just about the legal process, though. It was a reclamation of my identity. I reclaimed my story and I reclaimed my bond with my father. It was about undoing the erasure and asserting my rights to my own truth. Reclaiming my name was reclaiming my story. It was my way of saying, this is who I am. This is my truth. And no one can take that away from me again. Confronting the pain of that lost identity wasn't easy, but it was necessary, not just for me, but for all the children who are still being taken, manipulated, and disconnected from their true selves. This journey was fueled by my mission to reverse my adoption, to fight for children who have had their identities taken from them, whether through abduction, parental alienation, or psychological manipulation. My childhood experiences of being abducted and alienated from my father fueled a mission that I carry with me today. After decades of being disconnected from him, we finally reunited, but we only had 2 years before he passed away. Those 2 years changed everything for me. They gave me a chance to heal, but they also made me realize the immense loss that had occurred. This realization has driven me to advocate for children caught in similar situations where psychological manipulation and abduction tears families apart. I turned my pain into purpose, working tirelessly, literally tirelessly, to ensure that children today do not have to suffer the same fate. So I often wonder what those lost years could have been like, those 44 years, how my life may have been, and if I would have had the chance to know my father as a child. The reunion that we had in 2016 lit a fire in me, a fire to make sure that no child is kept from their parent unjustly, and that no child endures the same psychological abuse and violence in a ruse of my best interest. Growing up, I was constantly fed the narrative that painted my father as a dangerous and untrustworthy man, even though in my own mind, I held those memories of a loving, protective father. I was too young to reconcile the discrepancies between my experiences and the poisonous words that I was told. Excuse me. Over time, I internalized the denigration of my father, slowly losing any sense of autonomy over my feelings and memories, as well as my own self-worth. I wasn't allowed to talk about my real father. He was erased from my life, replaced by my mother's new husband, who I was forced to call daddy. This created a level of confusion and emotional dissonance that excuse me, made it more impossible for me to fully trust my own sense of reality. My identity was shaped by a lie, and it would take decades to untangle the truth from manipulation. This emotional struggle, where a child is caught between two worlds, is at the heart of child psychological abuse related to parental and family alienation and abduction. Before diving into the definition and effects of this form of abuse, as I share my personal connection now, I am not just an advocate or a researcher. I am a survivor. As a child, not only was I abducted by my mother, I endured psychological abuse that nearly severed my bond with my father. There was just enough of my own memories that were still intact that would wake up one day. And that day of awakening has led to this conference. This child abuse, as Dr. Childress explained yesterday, profoundly shaped my identity, relationships, and understanding of the world. This experience, known as child psychological abuse, left invisible scars that took years to uncover and even longer to heal. My mission today is to prevent other children from enduring this trauma by raising awareness and advocating for systemic change. Good grief, sorry. Child psychological abuse related to parental and family alienation and abduction is a form of invisible abuse that manipulates the child's emotional and psychological state, often leading to estrangement from one or both parents at some point in their lives. This abuse does leave physical scars, or doesn't leave physical scars, but it can have a deep, lasting impact on a child's development, relationships, and mental health well into adulthood. This form of child abuse, both a psychological and legal issue, as children are often used as pawns in high conflict divorce cases and parental abductions and other family disputes. So the different types of child psychological abuse could include parental alienation or family alienation, as well as we've heard in some of the speakers in their stories. So in cases of parental and family alienation, a child is manipulated by one parent or rejected to fear the other parent, or to reject and fear the other parent. And this manipulation can include bad mouthing, preventing contact, instilling false memories of abuse and or neglect, or worse. So the impact to the child is that the child grows up distrusting and hating that other parent, their lost parent, their left behind parent, the alienated parent, the targeted parent. We have a lot of names for them, but they lose that contact and they think they hate them, but they just don't understand what that really means. So they lose a vital emotional connection that can't easily be rebuilt in adulthood. And then we have parental abduction. This occurs when one parent unlawfully takes a child away from the other parent, often moving to another city, state, and or country. This action not only violates legal custody arrangement, but it also severs the emotional and psychological bond between a child and the abducted parent, with no chance of being able to recover that on their own. The impact to the child is the sense of security is shattered, and the trauma of the abrupt disconnection can lead to long-term emotional and psychological harm. The consequences of all of this is, one, identity crisis. Children subjected to this abuse often face confusion about their own identity and struggle to understand who they are. Having been manipulated into rejecting one parent, they are often with feelings of betrayal and self-doubt. In cases like yours or ours or mine, the forced adoption compounded with crisis, it involved a complete redefinition of who I was, stripping away for example, my true name, and severing my connection to my biological family. Then there's the emotional trauma. The emotional toll on a child is profound. The continuous psychological manipulation can cause anxiety, depression, low self-worth, and even post-traumatic stress disorder, complex. Children who grow up with this form of abuse can often feel unloved, unwanted, and confused about the place in their family. And then we have estrangement. As the child matures, the realization of this manipulation can lead to estrangement from the parent that did the denigrating or the alienating. Once the child uncovers the truth, they may feel a deep sense of betrayal and anger, which could cause them to cut off the relationship with the manipulative or pathogenic parent entirely. One of the most damaging aspects of this form of abuse is that it really is invisible to the outside world. Unlike physical abuse, there are no bruises, no broken bones, no scratches, there's scrapes, there's no external signs. The scars are internal, hidden within the child's emotional and psychological state, and can remain undetected for years, even decades, without treatment. This invisibility makes it difficult for law enforcement, mental health professionals, and even family members to recognize the abuse. In many cases, the pathogenic parent may appear to be the perfect parent, the better parent, while the left behind parent is portrayed as the dangerous or unfit parent. This distortion of reality not only affects the child, but also biases family courts and legal proceedings, who are not trained to identify and address the abuse. So my abduction didn't just remove me from my father, it systematically stripped away everything that connected me to him, including the name. As a survivor myself, my relationship with him was not only emotionally severed, but the legal system was manipulated into taking away the one tangible connection I had left. My name, my journey is more than just a story or overcoming emotional trauma. It's a fight to reclaim the identity that was taken from me. The act of changing my name wasn't just a legal maneuver. It was a final step in attempting to erase my identity and my connection to my father. Now, as an adult and an advocate, I am taking the final step to reclaim what was taken from me. I've already changed my legal name back to Dawn McCarty. And this decision to reverse my adoption is not just about the legal paperwork, it's about completing a journey of healing and restoring my true identity and my extended biological family, who has accepted and welcomed me into the family unquestioned. It's about standing up against the erasure and saying that I have a right to claim my true self. The fight is personal. It is. It's very personal, but it's also symbolic of a larger movement to protect children from the long-term damage of this form of alienation and abduction. By reversing my adoption, I am not only taking back my name, but also sending a message that the systemic enabling of child psychological abuse must end. By now, you understand that my journey is not just a personal tale of trauma and recovery. It's a story that thousands, if not millions, of children and adult survivors are living through every day. My story is simply one, but it's only one example of the devastating impact that abuse has on a person's identity, their sense of belonging, and emotional well being. I grew up with an identity crisis, and it was undiagnosed until after I found my father. That is a long time to not know who you are. My decision to share my story is not driven by the desire for sympathy or validation. Rather, it stems from the deeply rooted belief that our collective stories are a catalyst for systemic change. Each time we, as survivors, speak out, we shed light on a form of abuse that remains largely invisible to the legal system, social services, and even the medical community. My motive in standing before you today is not only to reclaim my own identity, but to ignite a broader conversation, one that demands recognition, reform, and ultimately justice for all children who have been subjected to this hidden form of abuse. The reality is, um, the child abuse is this form is misunderstood and it's overlooked. Our legal and social systems are not equipped to handle or even recognize this abuse for what it is: psychological warfare, and sometimes violence that leaves deep, invisible scars. Because it does not involve physical harm necessarily, this abuse often slips through the cracks, and our judicial and child protection systems do not detect it. But the wounds it causes are severe because they do not heal on their own. A bruise from physical abuse will eventually fade, while leaving an emotional or psychological scar. This is the same type of scarring. I have stood in courtrooms where this abuse was brushed aside or minimized because it did not leave any bruises or broken bones. This lack of recognition perpetuates the problem and allows the abuser to continue manipulating the child, severing their bond with the other parent and damaging their psyche in ways that can last a lifetime. The absence of proper legal tools and social awareness around this issue means that too many children are being forced to choose sides. They're weaponized in their parents' battle and left to navigate the psychological fallout alone. This is where we as a society need to take action. It's not enough just to know about child psychological abuse and that it exists. We need to reshape the system to prevent it. We need to recognize it and respond to it when it happens. We need to identify it and call it out when we see it. The solution that I'm proposing today is multifaceted. It begins with education, ensuring that family courts and professionals, social workers, mental health practitioners, and even educators are trained to identify signs of this abuse early on. It continues with legal reform, building frameworks that allow for proper intervention in cases where children are being psychologically manipulated and alienated. And it ends with empowering families to heal, reunite, and rebuild trust so that no child has to endure the kind of identity theft that I experienced. And how do we do this? We need a treatment protocol. And that's where we bring it back to Dr. Alyse Price-Tobler's research, and that's forthcoming. But back to my attempt to reverse my adoption. This is the final piece of this particular journey, because I'm not done. But in this particular journey, the reversing the adoption will be the huge win on this particular piece. So in reversing the wrongful adoption, because I believe it is a wrongful adoption that sealed the erasure of my identity, it is my ultimate act of reclaiming what was stolen and closing a chapter on the control that the abductor had over my life. So that is the final piece of closing that door. But more importantly, it stands as a symbolic act for every survivor of this form of child abuse. Proof that we can reclaim our lives no matter how deeply we have been affected. By sharing my journey and our journeys, I hope that to not only inspire other survivors to reclaim their own identities, but also to spark the changes needed in our legal and social systems. I believe that we have the power to prevent this from happening to future generations. This is not just my story. It is a call for all of us to take action. Together, we can demand that children's voices are no longer drowned out by the noise of parental conflict and manipulation. The solution is clear. With education, legal reform, and awareness, we can break the cycle of this child abuse and give children back the autonomy and sense of security that they deserve. The time to act is now. Setting the path for others to reclaim their identities. In this major project that I'm working on and attempting to reverse my adoption, it isn't just about my own healing, it's about setting the path for others who, like me, were separated from their true families. I have reconnected my paternal side of the family nearly entirely. In fact, I was able to reconnect my father to his mother's side of the family before he passed, which was huge. It was such a huge thing where he didn't even know where his family was because his mother died when he was so young and he was put into the foster system. So by connecting him to his family that he remembered as a child was an enormous success. I mean, it really did a lot towards our healing. So in reversing the adoption, I become part of that family legally. I can be a legal member of my father's side of the family that I'm now connected with. And that I have 3 brothers that I have also that I didn't know about growing up. And I can be a legal member of their family because today, by the law, I'm not legally their sister. I don't legally have brothers because on paper, I belong to a step family that has never accepted me, that has rejected me, and I do not have connection there. So I have zero connection to either side of my family when I look at it that way. So I want to right the wrong and put my biological family back into my legal family. And I feel like that is my choice because that was something that was taken from me unjustly. So no matter the personal justice, it's about correcting a larger systemic failure that has deprived countless children over the years of their identities and familiar connections. Many of us spent years, if not decades, trying to piece together our histories, trying to reclaim who we are. Reversing wrongful adoption can help restore those connections. It can give us not only a sense of belonging, but ensure that our next of kin legally reflects our true lineage and heritage. While I believe that adoptions serve as critical purpose when done for the right reasons, perhaps it's time to consider whether adoptions should expire when a child turns 18, allowing them the autonomy to choose who they wish to legally recognize as their family. I realize that that might ignite a lot. That's just my personal opinion. This would ensure that the adult child's rights are prioritized, not simply the decision of the courts or the parents who may have exploited the system. By setting the example with my own case, I hope to inspire a movement, one where more adult survivors can reclaim their names, their families, and ultimately their lives. So in closing, I want to share with you a tribute that I produced for my father. So I'm going to play this video for you. I'm going to warn you now, you might want to grab tissues because I know I'm going to. So let's get that going. Okay, here we go.
I took my time getting off that plane. Thought to myself, is this a good idea or just insane? for a man I've never met. His name ain't even on my birth certificate. He's nervous too, I bet. So much inside me I would like to say, but I'll just say,
standing in this baggage zone, I couldn't feel any more alone. Is this the way she felt the last 18 years? Thinking I chose not to be around, I had no idea until she found me. And now she's standing here. I didn't want to let the words get in the way, so I just said, hey.
hey, I'm glad to finally meet you. Share my story, what I've been through, to find a part of me that I never knew. Time and distance seem so small now, kinda takes my breath away. How much of me I see when I look at you. A new chapter in my life began today when you said, hey. I know that this must be so hard for you.
I think it's so brave that you asked me to.
I wasn't sure of the right thing to do, till I heard that little word, then I knew. Hey, I'm glad to finally meet you. Share my story, what I've been through, to find the part of me that I never knew. Time and distance seem so small now, kinda takes my breath away. How much of me I see when I look at you. A new chapter in my life began today when you said, hey. A new world opened up for me today when you said, hey.
Okay, so everybody knows, we did reunite. And hold on a second. Didn't get me till I said that.
Just
Great
take a
job.
minute.
Just
Take
take
a
a few
minute.
moments. Yeah, to breathe.
We're here with you, Dawn. We're here
I
with
know.
you.
I was
We love
doing
you.
fine the whole way until that last one.
It's okay.
This was the day that I got my life back.